So what I was going to do is actually just do a little bit of hiding. Since that topo map is actually no longer helping us, or the DWG, what I can do is hide that, and I can do that a couple ways. Let me say view, and I'll do visibility graphics. I'll just hide it over here. That way it's just not going to bother me. And finally, I have the topography itself. I'm having trouble moving it in this view. It's interesting. Let's see if I can get it over here. Say move. Try dragging it down a little. Now, I'm going to guess that what I just did isn't very accurate, but I'll leave it to the team to sort of modify accordingly. Oh, still not very far. Let's see if I can move down in this view. I think the scale of this is much greater than I think. Oh, no, that's interesting. Why is the pad moving with it? That's a little strange. Let me do a little thinking in my own brain about what's going on here. Oh, because it's interesting. It's following relative to it. Okay, let me go ahead and put it back to just -4. That's interesting. There is this whole thing where sometimes as you move things, elements follow other elements. Okay, that's probably a little bit closer. But you will see there is something interesting going on right there. And we'll have to figure out what that...
I think the landscape will be have to be added to the topo because it hasn't got any of the garden sinkings. So the cut and fill relationship will change.
No worries. We can go ahead and we'll do our foundations underneath it all, and we can go ahead and add that stuff in later. Okay. Now, just to be a little bit kind of clearer in this view...
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, certainly.
Ben?
Oh, that's kind of an interesting one. Let's see if we can. There's usually a checkbox that says moves with other elements or something like that. Let me go ahead and move that over there just so you can see more of our dialogue. Room bounding, moves with others, nothing there. Maybe not, at least at the starting point. I think what I might do is go ahead and move the ground first, and then we'll move the pad relative to it. But no, there usually is something like that, and I don't see it. It's like moves with others. Sounds like Dances with Wolves. Okay, so we will take this thing over here. And what I'm going to do is actually just hide the topography, because for what we're doing right now, we're going to find that's just going to keep on getting in the way, so we can't see what we're after. So to do that, again, I can just go to Visibility Graphics and hide it there. Or I can do this. There's a lot of different ways of hiding things. I can go through and say Hide in View. And what I'm doing is right-clicking to get that. Elements. It's interesting. The pad actually goes away, too. Well, I don't want that to happen yet, because what I want to do is actually the slope to it, or the slab to it, and then we'll do it. So ignore what I just said, and let's go through and let's go through and add the slab first. As you can see, this is all incredibly well rehearsed. Okay, so let's go through and add a slab to this thing. And to add the slab, one of the easiest things to do is actually going to be just to trace the pad. Because you've already, got a pad that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to switch over to the Home tab. Well, actually, let me do this. I would typically just sort of add a floor, but since this is actually going to be a foundation slab, let me switch instead to the structure tab. And honestly, the truth is that, you know, a floor and a slab, there's like next to no difference in terms of what's going on. It's really more an arbitrary distinction between those two. But if I'll choose foundation slab, okay, you will notice that it does have a few things enabled over here in the properties palette. It does think that it's structural. And Mary Lou, kind of to your point, there are some assumptions about the rebar and what's included in the structural floor, which will ultimately help us out when it's time to do a structural analysis. Now let's see if we can go through and actually just choose the edges of that slab. I could go through and draw them using the drawing tools, but I want to see if I can pick them. It looks like I might be able to. What I'm going to do is going to get the Pick Lines tool, and then I'm going to zoom on in. I'm going to go hovering myself just right on the edge of the slab, right there. If I click once, I will get a line. That'll be one of the pink lines that'll be the boundary of the floor. Let me zoom back out again. A very nice thing you can do, though, that even sort of speeds it up, is I can click and click and click and kind of do all that. If you hover over that line instead and you tab, what will happen is it'll grab all the different lines. Just so to kind of keep it clean, I'm going to select these and get rid of the old ones because I don't want to get two on top of each other. That'll create an error. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do pick lines, but instead of picking the lines individually, when you have a big, long, continuous surface, a nice way to do it is you can just kind of hover over one of the lines, and I'm just hovering, not actually clicking yet. Then I'll hit the tab key a couple times. Can you see the little blue dashed line suggesting where it will go? What it did was actually just selected all the different lines. That's just a really quick way of getting the entire boundary. When I say finish, it'll put the concrete slab in there. You see it's sort of sitting on top of the sand. Actually, it's intersecting the sand. And the reason it's doing that is because the type is still a 6-inch foundation slab. What we would probably do to kind of really make it just model the Schindler house is we'd say edit the type and duplicate this. And I'll create a nice 4-inch slab. Change its thickness by editing the structure. And say OK. Now the reason I went through and duplicated it as opposed to just changing the actual thickness of the one type is that if I've already placed a few slabs that use the 6 inches, I don't want to go through and kind of change those two. I really just only want to change this one slab. And what I'll do, just yes, please. Yes.
Glenn. So, when there's the conflict of lines,
yes,
which stops you making the slab, is that because there are lines or
exactly? It's probably because you probably have an overlap.
How can you clean them off?
So what's happening? Yeah, because like if I already had the lines here, let me just pick another line here. I actually sort of have two on top of each other right now. So what I'll do is if I say, yeah, it says lines cannot intersect, and they currently intersect. You can even say show, and it'll try to go through and show you a view that shows them. Okay, but typically you just go back to continue, and what I typically do is just go through and try taking some out. Now watch out for this. I still have the pick line chosen, so that would be keep on adding more lines. Instead I want to go modify grab one, take it out. So that's definitely like one of those points of confusion. In fact, here I have another like just stray pink line. I'm not sure where I got that one from. Let me delete that too. Because you really want to have just a single continuous boundary. Okay, so how are we doing on our boundaries of floors? I know that's actually one of the hardest things. Sometimes enough.
Enough.
I understand. Beautiful. No, if you're having troubles, just oh please.
We've got one question over here.
So here's we got the slab and the fill. So is it overlapping for you, or what are you seeing? Yeah. So what I had to do was two things. I had to take the pad and lower it 4 inches. And the other thing was I had to take the slab and change its thickness to 4 inches. Looking good?
Okay.
Close enough. Okay. Next thing I want to do is really just to kind of confirm how this is all looking. What I'm going to do is cut a section, because sections help me all the time in terms of really understanding the relationships between things vertically. So I can go to the floor plan level, for example. I'll click on the View tab, get the Section Cut tool, and then we'll just drag a section right to here. Oh, geez, that wasn't very neat. Let me go ahead and undo that. That's looking a little better. Once you've cut the section, to open it, you'll see that it actually shows up in the project browser. Or if you want to, you can just click on the head. So right here at the arrowhead, the little blue guy. Now we're not seeing much in this section right now. I think that's because the DWG is still showing. Let me go ahead and turn that off. Again, I can do that with visibility of graphics. Or I can choose the DWG. It's an imported symbol. I can say hide it this way, hide in view. Either way. And then as you go zooming through here, you'll see the slab and you'll see the sand underneath it. You'll notice that it's really not very descriptive right now because it's at a coarse level of detail. So what we need to do is actually, if you want to start seeing the fill materials, way down at the bottom of the screen, we have this thing where the detail level is a choice. And we can shift from coarse up to medium or fine. And it was sort of hard to see what happened in there as the fill pattern actually popped in. Let me even change the scale of the drawing so that the thick lines don't look so thick. Or the line weight is more in scale with the drawing. How about that? Actually, another technique that people should know about that's really useful There's this whole notion of whether those lines are thick, the way they'll be whether plotted, or whether they're relatively thin, so we can actually just sort of place geometry near them more accurately. And there's a great little tool right here called Thin Lines. If you click on Thin Lines, it'll toggle between just showing you kind of the very thin edges and the thick edges. Okay, so we sort of see our little section here with a concrete slab and the pad underneath it. And here's the topography. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually just hide the topography in the 3D view so I'm not looking at it. Because what I want to be able to do is add a little thickened edge at the bottom and see the edge of the slab. So again, I can do that a couple ways. I can do it with visibility graphics and just hide topography as a category. And that'll get us just back to the slab. Yeah, or I could have done that by hiding the elements. Let me, I'm going to go ahead and hide that building pad too. Again, by saying visibility graphics. And this space, I got to find it. It's under site features. So I can just turn off the site features. And now I'll just have a pure slab, nothing else. Okay, boy, that was a lot of work just to get the slab down, but once we got that down, we're actually in pretty good shape. So here's the deal. We got a nice 4-inch slab. That's all looking pretty good. Let me switch back over to that detail again. I'm going to start by doing this relatively simple end, the end that doesn't have the concrete wall on it. It just has this little bit of thickening at the end. And let's show you how you do that. So for me, I'm going to add that thickened edge along this edge here, and I'm going to add it on this edge on the right-hand side too. Okay, you ready for that? What we do is we go to the Structure tab. And under Slab, you'll actually find something called a Slab Edge. Okay, and let's choose that. You're going to find there's different types of edges that are defined. And the shape of that edge is actually defined by a profile. And we'll play with that in terms of how to customize that in just a second. But if I'm choosing to put a slab edge on there, what I want to do is actually just click on the edge of the slab. And what I'm going to do is click on the lower edge of the slab because I'm going to add the thickened edge underneath it, as opposed to intersecting. So I'll choose that. See how slickly that came in there? I'll put it on the other edge too. Kind of did a nice job of healing itself up in the corner. In fact, if I roll underneath it, you'll see that it's doing a pretty nice job of kind of doing the thickening in two edges and kind of giving us a nice 45 in the corner. Let me do it like that. Maybe that'll be easier for you to see. So thickened edges are actually easy to go through and add to a slab. Let me do just a couple more things to our thickened edge before we talk about how to kind of make that a little more custom to what you want. If you choose the thickened edge, you'll see it's actually one big object. And it has type properties too. We can adjust it sort of vertically or horizontally, kind of give it a little bit of an offset. Or if you change the type properties, we can give it a material like Cast-in-place concrete is a good one. And the reason I'm choosing cast-in-place concrete is since the slab is cast-in-place concrete, and this one made it a cast-in-place concrete too. What I'd actually like to have happen is those two things, I like to have them joined together. So I got this edge, and I got the top there. Yeah, but you'll see there's still a little bit of a seam in there. Okay, so if you want to get rid of that, how we do it is we choose one. Doesn't matter which one you do. We'll say join some geometry. Yes, then I can choose that and choose the slab. And they magically heal together. Oh, I don't think they do. Let's just try it. I think that, let's change it to something else and see. I'll just make it like ceramic tile just so it's something different. Yeah, they're considered joined now, but the materials don't heal. So it is considered like one big object, sort of, as we operate on it, but you're not getting that sort of removal of the line. So what we want to do is, let me go back to cast-in-place concrete. Actually, it's just unjoined. Yeah, it somehow explodes a dirty word in like Revit. We really explode things. Okay. Now, the nice thing is, as we've done that, if you go back to the section view, okay, oh, let me go through and hide those topography and the site features here too. Okay, we're getting a relatively good-looking section now. Okay, with the thickened edge and the sand underneath it. Okay, so how are we doing in terms of that? Because we're going to talk next about how to make that profile look more like what we want. Is that kind of feeling pretty good? Excellent. Okay, so let's talk about this and how this shape is defined. Because really, it looks like it's a lot more modest over here on Schindler House. Yeah, if that's 4 inches, oh, if it's 2 or 3 inches, I don't know, we're probably lucky. So here's the deal. If we choose that slab edge, and we look at the types, you'll see there's actually a profile associated with the types. Okay, so there's kind of this kind of thickened, sloping profile. And we have a 24-inch wide by 12-inch deep one, 36 by 12, 36 by 18. We want to go through and actually create one that's much smaller. One that's maybe 12 by 3 or something like that. Or 12 by 4, something small. So what we're going to do is actually go to our profiles and look for that family and just create a new member of that. So what I'm going to do is going to go over to the project browser, and I'll look in the project browser. You'll find a section for families. I'll go down to profiles. And you'll find that that slab edge thickened is a family of profiles. And what are profiles? They're just like a chain of lines, a continuous chain of lines that define a shape. So I can grab that 24 by 12. Actually, let me do this. Let me just choose section. No, what do I want to do? That one there. Which I'm just double clicking on it. I'm trying to think about the easiest way to get this open. I'll just choose one of the members of the family and double click on it. It'll open up the type properties, so we can, what we tend to do whenever we have things of the same shape but different dimensions. We'll do a little duping. First, I'm just going to give it a name to describe it so I can spot it in the list. And I'll say 1 foot wide by 3 inches, 3 inches tall. Okay, so you'll see it shows up there in the list. So we got it there. We haven't done anything with it. We just sort of created a new profile with a smaller shape. But what we can do now is go through and choose that slab thickening, slab edge, and we'll edit it. Because we want to create a new type of slab edge that uses that new profile. Okay, so I'm going to dupe this, and I'm going to call it, Schindler, like 12 by 3. So again, it's just a name so far. But if I change the profile right here, we'll say A-OK to that. And you'll notice it changed to use that new profile. So again, if you have a different type, I can switch between the 24 by 12. Okay, we'll just kind of hang out for a second and give people a chance to catch up. Do you have any questions on that side? As you guys are catching up on that side, let's just go ahead and talk a little about where we're going next. And that is, if I go back over here to the slab, so we actually have something sort of similar going on the other side. But it is a little bit different. Let's talk about that. And the big difference is really we have to deal with this notch. I played around with that notch a bit and tried to figure out a good way to model that. And typically when you want to take a notch out of thing, what we do is we create something called a void, and we join the void to the solid, and it takes the notch out. And we could do that, but it would actually be a little more work. Because if I want something that's going to sort of follow the slab edge and wrap nicely as the slab edge follows the edges of the slab, it's kind of nicer to sort of just build it into the slab edge profile. So I'm going to show you kind of the way I'd do it, which is a little bit, I'd call it an unauthorized trick. It's just sort of an okay way to do it that I think will be expedient. So we'll kind of approach it this way until we kind of come up with a better way to doing it. What I'm going to suggest is that as opposed to sort of adding the profile just underneath the bottom, is that we actually create a profile which matches the whole height of the edge, including the notch. Okay, so really all of this area. Okay, so sort of get where I'm going with that? And then we'll go ahead and add this whole big blob, including the notch, to the end of the slab. Now, if you do it this way, one thing we'd have to do is actually go through and just actually cut the slab back a little bit. Because we're going to add this notched kind of foundation kind of to the outside of it. But we'll show you that in just a second. Okay, so get the idea where we are? Okay, how are we feeling, Mary Lou? Are we ready to proceed? Oh, I'm just wondering, are we ready to proceed with creating this funny profile? Well, then not. Let's do it.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, what we're going to do is actually create a new profile. And we're going to do that by basically opening an existing one and doing a save as. So what I'm going to do is actually just over here in the project browser, even if you don't have it showing, kind of go down to families and choose the profile. And I'm going to choose that Slab Edge Thickened. Because what I'm going to do is actually going to look an awful lot like that. And I will say edit, not an individual instance, but the whole family. Let me go ahead and save that. Oops. I just saved that on top of your Topo Schindler. I shouldn't have done that. Whoever owns Topo Schindler, I hope you have another copy somewhere else. Fantastic.
It's okay,
Oops.
we've got another copy.
Things like that happen to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'll open that up. Now this is actually the profile that defines the shape, and the profile itself is just a continuous loop of lines. But if you want to see about how those lines apply themselves to the edges of the slab, what we need to do is this. Choose View. We'll go back to Visibility Graphics. I'm going to turn on something called the Reference Planes and the Dimensions. And this is a skill that we're going to learn a lot more about when we start modeling furniture and kind of custom elements in Revit. But all these things with profiles and how these dimensions apply to the shape can be seen through these things called reference planes and these dimensions, which define parameters. So there's a couple of reference planes. This is called the center left-right. This one over here is the center top-bottom. And that point right there is actually the point where this thing gets placed. So, if what I would like to do is have a different shape, let me go ahead and take this line out, because I'm actually going to create something which extends back this way and includes the notch. Okay, so I still have those three edges over here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is shift to home, get the line tool, and now I can start drawing. And what I'm going to do is draw 4 inches up, because that's the thickness of my slab. Well, actually, am I thinking right? I guess this will place it at the bottom. That'll work. Come across here, back, however many inches it is to the notch. I'm going to guess 4 inches. It's probably less. Kind of form a little notch-like object. How wide would we guess that is? That's probably about 4 inches. Given Schindler's proclivity to regular geometries, it's probably all 4s and 2s. How far back does that extend? Oh, maybe 6 inches beyond that. Then I'll come down. Oops. I got a bad looking line up there. I'll fix that in a second. Let me take this one out. I'll put another line in here. Now, with all this line trimming and things like that, there's a couple things we have to do. I want a continuous loop, and over there I got an intersection. And down here I have something that isn't joining. But I'm actually going to use the same tool to fix both things. I'll go up and grab the Trim tool. It's in the Modify tab. And if I click on the things I want to keep, we'll keep those two. And if I click on the things I want to keep, it'll join those two. Okay, so the only big restriction here is we did have to go ahead and have, just what is it? Just a continuous loop. That's the only big thing that we have to worry about. Now, if I look at this and I try to guess what the thickness is, I'm guessing it's about 8 inches deep. And I'm not sure how far it sticks out in front of that. But I can change some type parameters around in here. Maybe make it only 8 inches thick. I was trying to move that window. I'll say apply to that. Now I'm messing around with these parameters. You don't have to mess around with these parameters. You could just go ahead and just draw a shape. The important part is I need to have a profile that does have about the right shape in here. And it's just got to be a continuous loop of lines. Let me even go ahead and do a little renaming on this. Because what did I really make this? This is really kind of only what I call like 6 inches wide by 8 inches. And that's just more a naming convention. Okay, say okay to that. How are we doing on your end? Do you have some profiles that are ready to re-import? Oh, no worries. That's okay. That sounds perfect.
Just watching.
Let me go ahead and I'll take that profile. And what I'm going to do is save as, because I don't want to overwrite the old one. I'll finish this one out, and then when we start the next section, you get a chance to jump back in again. I know this is really kind of weird, but oh, what's happening here? This is it's kind of a complicated foundation just because of this funny edge condition. I'll call this Schindler with notch. Save that away. Again, the reason I'm saving is I just don't want to overwrite the old one. Then I'll load this into my project. You'll see now down in profiles, I have Schindler with notch as one of my profiles. So what was that all about? Let's kind of put it back in perspective. I got these two edges over here. Let me zoom on in so you can sort of see. These two have edges that are the thin edge. This edge back here I want to have the thick edge on. It has the notch on it. So what I'm going to do is go back to floor slabs, slab edge. Now this time I still only have this Schindler 12 by 3 and thickened 24 by 12. What I'm going to do is just edit, because I need to again create a new type. So give it a name. And then I'll just refer to that new profile. Say OK. So with slab edges, it's always have a profile, create a slab edge type that uses that profile, and then you can go ahead and place the profile. So if, for example, or the edge, excuse me. So I put it there. And that corner will require a little bit of cleanup. It's doing pretty good. Didn't quite get itself cleaned up over there.
So, what can you do about the
in terms of yes? Let's talk about that. Oh, that's interesting. That one. Hang on. Let me put that back on again. What happened was I chose different edges that time. That's why they didn't join nicely. Let me get the bottom edge, the bottom edge, the bottom edge. What it'll tend to do is actually just follow the line. Now let's see if we can give you a little more control over that. Most sweeps actually you can control. I'm not sure if this one will let you do it. You see I chose it? There's a little blue dot on the end. Yeah, I can push that back.
Yes.
Or kind of stretch it out.
That's it.
So even though it's really just a sweep following a path, you can change the path as needed. Cool. So that's kind of Schindler and the slabs. Oh, but we should do the same thing. Let's go ahead and grab that guy, and we'll do the join. Actually, I think I just need to be somewhere where something's chosen so I can use the join tool. Do that, and then magically heal on up. Okay, so if we go over to the section, let's zoom on out. We're fairly close to what it is on that side.
So you Schindler guys.
Yeah, that is the essence of slabs, including that whole thing with the notch and editing the profiles is really pretty advanced stuff. So if that was a little sketchy for you, yeah, go back and watch the video. If you can handle that, you're actually doing probably the hardest thing there is with foundations.
Did everybody follow the making of the special section? All right, you'll get it on the replay.
Okay. It is being recorded, so we should be able to get you. Should be able to give you help later with that. Great. Now, so Mary, I noticed that took a lot longer than I wanted it to. For the other two houses, I think we could probably get those things done in 30, 40 minutes. Relative to your timing, would you like to take like a little 5-minute stretch break now?
Yes or no?
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yes. 5 minutes.
So we'll see you in 5, and we'll get ourselves all geared up for the next house.
Grand.